The clock blinked 2:43 a.m. in harsh red digits. Malik sat in the glow of his monitor, eyes dry, shoulders slumped, cursor hovering over a button labeled Delete Channel. 3 years, 176 videos, countless hours editing on a glitchy laptop, filming with a cracked phone camera. And what did he have to show for it? A channel with 83 subscribers, most of them silent. His latest video, the one he poured his heart into, got 11 views. 8 of those, his own. The other 3, probably bots. The silence was louder than hate. At least haters acknowledge your presence. This was nothingness. No comments, no feedback, no reason to believe any of it mattered. He leaned back in his chair, the same one with the ripped armrest and missing screw, and stared at the ceiling like it owed him an answer. In the stillness of that hour, a thought whispered in his head. A soft, cruel thought. Maybe I'm just not meant for this. It wasn't the first time he'd thought it. But this time, it felt real. Final. He had no big support system. No mentor. No rich uncle backing his dreams. Just a kid with a passion. And a worn-out dream that was starting to rot from the inside. He opened his channel settings. Found the option. Delete content permanently. All he had to do was click. One click to erase the late nights. One click to silence the hope. One click to stop hurting. He hesitated. His hand hovered over the mouse, frozen, trembling slightly. Not out of fear, but exhaustion. Mental, emotional, everything. Malik exhaled, reached for the mouse. Ping. A tiny notification popped up in the corner of his screen. A YouTube comment. From a user he didn't recognize. He blinked, almost confused. He hadn't gotten a comment in over a week. Click. He opened it. I've been battling depression. Your video made me smile today. Thank you. 7 words. 1 sentence. But it hit him like thunder in a quiet room. He read it again. And again. Then again. It wasn't viral. It wasn't fancy. But for the first time in weeks, Malik felt seen. Not by thousands, just by one person. And suddenly, that was enough. He stared at the delete button one last time. Then closed the window. The silence didn't break. But something inside him did. The part that wanted to quit. Took a step back. He wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring. But tonight, one thing was certain. He wasn't done yet. The next morning, Malik sat with a mug of instant coffee that had gone cold. The comment from the night before still echoed in his head. He pulled up his video, the same one he had nearly deleted his entire channel over, and read the comment again. I've been battling depression. Your video made me smile today. Thank you. No emojis. No fluff. But it hit harder than 1,000,000 views ever could. He clicked on the commenter's profile. No videos, just a generic profile pic. They weren't trying to promote anything. They weren't being polite. They were just honest. It was raw and real. And it was all Malik needed to feel something he hadn't in weeks. Purpose. He went back to his analytics. Still disappointing. Still no spike in views. Still no big break on the horizon. But now, the numbers didn't matter as much. Because behind one of those numbers was a real human being who had felt better, even for a moment. Because of him. Malik leaned back in his chair and whispered under his breath. I made someone feel something. It wasn't fame. It wasn't fortune. But it was a spark. And sometimes, that's all you need to keep going. He opened his journal. A dusty notebook he hadn't touched in months. On the first empty page, he wrote, Greater than one person smiled because I didn't give up. That's enough reason to keep going. Then he grabbed his phone and rewatched his video. This time, he didn't look at the flaws, the lighting issues, the shaky audio. He saw it for what it was, a moment of truth. An imperfect video, made with full heart. He had forgotten why he started. It wasn't for clout. It wasn't for sponsors or subscribers. He started because something inside him wanted to connect, to tell stories, to help people feel seen, heard, understood. That night, he stayed up again, not out of frustration, but with quiet energy. He opened his video editor, started working on a new script, not to go viral, but to say what someone out there might need to hear. The world didn't know his name. Not yet. But one person knew his video, and that was enough to make Malik show up again. One comment saved a dream. One sentence silenced the doubt. And without even knowing it, that anonymous viewer had become the reason a creator chose to keep creating. Sometimes the push you need isn't loud. It's just a whisper at the right time. Malik's room hadn't changed. Same flickering ceiling bulb. Same old mic with tape holding the wire in place. Same cracked phone camera balanced on stacked books. But he had changed. Something inside had clicked back into place. Not loudly. Just enough to keep going. This time, there was no frantic energy. No racing to beat the algorithm. He took his time. Wrote a script that spoke from him, not just to others. Not content, but a message. One person had reminded him, there's power in just showing up. He filmed late at night, like always. But now, every word felt like it mattered again. His voice cracked at moments. He didn't cut that out. He left it in, because it was real. He titled the video, "To Anyone Who Feels Invisible Right Now." No fancy thumbnail. No viral tricks. Just truth. He uploaded it and forgot about it. Not because he didn't care, but because, for the first time in a long time, he wasn't chasing numbers. He was chasing honesty. Days passed. A few views here, a couple comments there. But something was different. This time, people were responding. "Dude, how did you know exactly what I was feeling? I've been sitting in silence for weeks. This pulled me out. Please don't stop making videos." He didn't go viral. He went deeper. And in a world of noise, depth is rare. Depth is what people remember. Soon, he noticed a shift. More engagement. Longer watch times. More human comments. People weren't just scrolling past. They were stopping. And in stopping, they were finding him. Malik stopped second-guessing his voice. He stopped comparing himself to creators with big cameras and studio lights. He realized they had equipment. He had experience. And experience has a heartbeat. He didn't need perfection. He needed to mean it. So he did. Every upload, every reply, every word. He wasn't chasing an audience anymore. He was serving one, even if it was just a few people at a time. And that service, that mindset, it made all the difference. One night, he looked at his old journal again, flipped to the page where he had written, "One person smiled because I didn't give up." He smiled and added underneath, "Now more people are smiling, and I'm still not giving up." Sometimes the fire doesn't roar back. It returns as a steady flame, quiet, warm, and unstoppable. Weeks turned into months. Malik's channel slowly climbed, nothing explosive, but steady. He reached a small milestone, 500 subscribers. It wasn't much to most people, but to him, it was a crowd. 500 people who chose to listen, who saw value in a voice that once echoed into silence. He kept going. Consistent uploads, replies to every comment, authentic messages, no shortcuts, no gimmicks. But then, just as quietly as growth had come, it stopped. The next 3 videos barely reached 50 views. No new subscribers. The comments slowed. And then, nothing. Malik refreshed his analytics dashboard over and over. No change. No rise. Just stillness. He told himself not to panic. This happened. Algorithms shifted. People got busy. It was a phase. But a part of him, a small, stubborn voice, began to whisper again. What if they forgot about you? The silence hit harder this time, not because he was desperate for attention, but because he had started to believe he was finally being heard. Now the doubt returned, and it brought friends. Maybe you peaked. Maybe the connection was just a fluke. Maybe the world's moved on. He sat in front of his camera, script in hand, but said nothing. His throat felt heavy, eyes unfocused. It wasn't just about a lack of views. It was about questioning if he was still making a difference. He walked away from the desk, took a breath, looked out the window into the night. That's when he remembered something. He thought back to the first silence, the night he nearly deleted his channel. Back then, silence felt like rejection. But now it felt like a test, not from the world, from within. This wasn't a moment to panic. This was a moment to prove that he didn't create only when rewarded, that he didn't speak only when applauded, that he didn't help people only when they said thank you. He sat back down, opened his notebook, and wrote 4 words: create like no one's watching. Because someone always eventually is. And even if they aren't, he still was. Malik recorded that night, his voice steady, not hyped, not broken, just true. The fire inside him wasn't flashy anymore. It was quiet, but unshakable. He uploaded the video, turned off his analytics, and let it go. Not to see what he could get, but to give what someone else might need. Sometimes the silence isn't punishment. It's preparation. It's asking you one thing. Will you still speak even when no one claps? It happened when Malik least expected it. He had almost forgotten how it felt to even dream about the big break. After months of staying steady, creating with authenticity, and learning to show up without expecting anything in return, the pressure of constant effort had become normal. It was simply what he did now. He no longer felt discouraged by the silence. It was a part of the process. But then, one afternoon, an email popped up. We'd like to feature your video in our next roundup of motivational creators. At first, Malik thought it was a joke. He clicked the link, checked the details, and reread the email twice. It wasn't a scam. It wasn't spam. It was a real offer from a well-known platform, a creator's website that featured inspiring and motivational content. They had found his video, the one titled, "To Anyone Who Feels Invisible Right Now," the one he had uploaded on a whim, not caring if it did anything for his numbers, the one where he had poured his heart out without worrying about being perfect. He sat back, eyes wide, heart racing. He read the email again, and again, and again. They wanted to feature him. A real feature, not a share from a friend, not a like from an influencer, but an actual recognition from a platform that had a massive audience. The validation wasn't just in the email. It was in the timing. The world had been silent for so long. And now finally, it was listening. Malik didn't feel the immediate excitement like he thought he would. There was no explosion of joy, no loud cheer, just a deep, steady feeling of peace. He didn't need this feature to validate his journey, but it was a reminder. A reminder that every time he thought about quitting, there had been a quiet force pushing him to keep going. Every time he showed up despite the silence, it was like he was planting seeds. And now one of those seeds had blossomed. He accepted the feature, humbled and grateful, and waited. But what happened next, he wasn't prepared for. The video went live on their platform. Within hours, it had over 50,000 views. Messages flooded in, from people sharing how much his words had meant to them. Some had been on the verge of giving up. Some were struggling with isolation. Some just needed to hear someone else say, "I see you." And it was all because Malik had chosen not to quit. It wasn't about the views, though. It wasn't even about the recognition. It was about the impact. For the first time, he realized that success was never about numbers. It was about connections. The recognition he received that day wasn't the finish line. It was just another marker on a path that had started with one comment, one person, one small spark that said, "Don't quit yet." Success doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it sneaks in quietly, on the other side of persistence. Malik leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen in disbelief. The numbers on his video had reached a level he had never imagined. 50,000 views, hundreds of new subscribers. Messages of gratitude and admiration poured in. Yet, amidst the noise of success, Malik felt something strange. A quiet peace. He had spent so many nights chasing external validation, striving for recognition, for fame, for that big break. But now, as the world finally noticed him, it wasn't the numbers that made him feel fulfilled. It was the realization that his true success wasn't in the feature. It was in the journey. The persistence. The effort to show up, even when the world seemed indifferent. The willingness to keep creating, even when he felt invisible. It had all started with one small comment, and here he was. Still grounded. Still passionate. Still dedicated. Malik knew that the future wasn't guaranteed. This feature might be a flash in the pan, and the numbers could fade away tomorrow. But now, he understood something that many creators never learn. Success isn't a destination. It's the path you take with unwavering purpose, no matter how quiet or noisy the world around you gets. He smiled to himself, thinking about that late night months ago when he was ready to quit. That was the moment when everything had changed. That was the moment when he chose to keep going, for no reason other than because he believed. Malik didn't need fame to feel validated. He didn't need millions of views to know he was doing something worthwhile. He just needed to be present, to keep speaking, to keep sharing, and to keep connecting with others who needed to hear his voice. As the days went on, the numbers fluctuated. Some videos did better than others. Some didn't get the attention he hoped for. But it didn't matter. The satisfaction of creating with meaning, of helping instead of just gaining, became his driving force. He still had big dreams. He still hoped for more recognition, for a larger community. But that wasn't his why anymore. His why was now to serve, to speak to the one person who might need it most, to show up even when no one else was watching. And when he thought back to that moment when he almost gave up, Malik realized how far he had come. The lesson was simple. The path you walk when no one is watching is often the one that brings the most reward. True success doesn't come from the applause. It comes from knowing that you showed up, no matter the silence, and gave it everything you had.